welcome to another edition of SaaS Builders. I'm your host, Jefferson Nunn. I'm joined today by John Florey, who is just a terrific marketer and all around a great guy as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you got going on and what to?
Sure. So like you pointed out, my name is John Florey. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a creative marketing agency for e-commerce brands called Sama Labs. We are a 35-person team focusing on helping small to medium-sized e-commerce brands use digital marketing as a resource to help them grow.
Cool. And I know a lot has changed in this space over the last 10 years. I mean, I'm going from a time, I remember when I was a kid where marketing meant, door to door traveling salesman. So can you tell me a little bit more about how do you knock on doors these days?
Well, we've been pretty fortunate to have a really good network of people who've gotten to know us over the years. Our agency is only about 3.5 years old, but people really appreciate working with us because of our story. So we have been not just working with other people's businesses and helping them grow over the last few years, but we've actually spent the last 7 years building our own brands. So our story is kind of what leads into why people do like working with us and feel comfortable working with us, because we can empathize not just from the marketing aspect of things, but also from like an owner operator standpoint and how to actually run and grow a successful business. A lot of that experience gets emulated down. So over the last 7 years, we have 4 direct-to-consumer brands that we own and operate today that are considered disruptor brands. They're all direct-to-consumer online, and really what happened was people started to approach us looking for help, right? So because we've gone through those different inflection points as a business, going from literally 0 to 100 out of bedroom to being, a group that employs north of 150 people, that helped us tap into a way to help people with their own struggles, whether it was operationally or on the marketing side, and then of course led us to starting the agency.
That's fantastic. And you touched on a couple of points that we also like to help businesses with, where operationally things, there's friction points and so forth, and we try to build systems that just work. But circling back to marketing for a bit, I was just speaking yesterday with somebody over at Google Cloud. And he mentioned that building communities is one of the most important things. And I think that's something that's oftentimes overlooked by a startup. It's really building that community of supporters and influencers. And I know those are just keywords, but really just a community of people, people that like you, respect you, and want to work with you and help you out as your brand grows. Can you talk a little bit more about what, today digital marketing means to building that?
Yeah, well, it's changed drastically over the last 12 to 16 months. Obviously, with the pandemic and COVID happening, it's forced brands to rethink their marketing strategies. So what was working well in 2019 is not so much the way you should approach things today. So it's really kind of turned direct-to-consumer marketing kind of on its head with regards to using platforms like Facebook and Google and Snapchat. Now you have platforms like TikTok, of course. So what's really led brands to think about is the conversations with the consumers, really creating, like you said, a community and nurturing them so they build, it's authentic, but they also build trust within a brand. And it's not so much anymore like, here's a display advertisement for a discount on a product just because you might meet the criteria of the audience we're trying to target. Those days are pretty much long and gone. Consumers are becoming much more savvy and aware of what they're looking at, because they're being served so much so often. So from a conversational standpoint, it's forcing brands to be authentic, create what we consider a moat strategy. So the moat, obviously protecting the castle being the brand, and finding ways to not just bring people to the castle, but keep them in there and protect them from other outside brands that might want to entice their customers from leaving the castle, therefore the moat strategy. So we've used that as kind of this metaphor of being able to think about how to nurture that journey, and also the content and creative. Content's always been king. That's a pretty cliche term in today's world, but it's true. Creating that content that continues that dialogue, continues that authenticity, helps you validate your product or your business. That starts with your content. So it's forcing, again, brands to think about how do we procure, produce, and edit content on a regular basis that not just serves the consumer, but serves their marketing strategy, right? A lot of these platforms today are completely reliant on content and creative. And if you don't have a good content strategy, you're kind of just, scrapping some straws together and seeing what works. And that's obviously not sustainable, nor is it something that you can rely on as a business.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. I was just talking also last week, I believe, with somebody that was talking about reputation management. And come to think of it, I think one of the best ways to maintain a good reputation, you mentioned authenticity, is making sure that you're really authentic in your messaging. Then when negative reviews or whatever come up, I think you have a much easier challenge getting those removed, because if it's completely counter to your brand and your messaging and even what other people are saying, then obviously these reviews must be fake reviews, right? So, because that's one of the ways that brands get attacked, is with those fake reviews by oddly other brands.
Yeah, I mean, that's more on the organic side. It's not something you combat too often with paid media, just because things are happening so rapidly that really what you have to control is more the comments in the individual posts, especially with like platforms like Facebook and Instagram. So it's a little bit easier to combat them, because you can hide the comments and keep it relative to the product and the ad, and the platforms do a good job of helping you police that. But yeah, I mean, for most local brick and mortar businesses, mom and pops that are kind of servicing a geographical region, they're relying on Google as a resource, because that's, most of those services are super high intent, and Google's a very intent driven platform, right? So that's where the SEO conversation comes into play, which SEO is kind of running its own race alongside your paid media strategies. And your email marketing, your own media is what the term is being used as today. Own media being like the data that you're keeping from these efforts, which is usually utilized through email and SMS marketing. But yeah, I mean, of course, reviews and reputation is important for any business. And if you keep that conversation, the dialogue going, and you help create these ambassadors or advocates for your business, that's 101 for really whatever category you're in. Whether it's an agency, obviously you want your customers to be advocates to encourage other people to work with you, or you're a power washing company in your local area. That's the word of mouth is super important. It's one of the best ways to get new business, as you know. So yeah, absolutely, it's definitely important, something to keep an eye on. But I think depending on the type of business that you're in, sometimes you can attack that a little bit differently.
I know for some SaaS businesses, they talk about affiliate marketing. I mean, I have one customer, she called all the time by these affiliate marketing people, saying that this is probably one of the most important ways to get the word out. Can you talk about that a little bit? How did that work? And how did that work with paid advertising and trying to control the price point of your product?
So yeah, I mean, affiliate marketing in the e-com world is similar but different. What we're looking and we're actually launching our own affiliate network here actually this month. And more it's about how do we diversify our reach and our revenue streams outside of the paid media ecosystem. because with the iOS updates that are happening with, really throttling the privacy restrictions up a bit, which is causing a bit of a rift in attribution for different platforms. That's definitely causing us as a service-based company with the brand's best interest in mind to think about different ways to approach things. Affiliate marketing just happens to be one of those things where it's a tried and true mechanism for many, many years. And all the trends show that it's going to continue going up and up and up, with brands spending more on affiliate marketing, because you're tapping into audiences and publications and networks that already have the attention and the awareness. And really that's one of the most powerful things in marketing today for consumer brands, is where can you find the most attention? So affiliate marketing is one of those things for whether it's e-commerce service-based companies, to be able to, usually the path to less resistance, to find that type of consistency in reaching people that outside of what you can target, males or females between the ages of X and Y that have these interests on Facebook. You can go beyond that in a more broad way, which will have like a lateral effect with your paid media, because ultimately you want people to know who you are. You want people to try your product. And once they try your product, they typically won't remember the affiliate so much as they will the brand experience, whether it's from how quickly they got the order, or the unboxing experience, or just the product experience in general. They like the product. So that will help them come back. And then you have this kind of hockey stick way of growing that people are looking for. So yeah, I mean, affiliate networks are definitely, I think, undervalued, but they're getting more appropriately valued as we go.
That's amazing, and that's awesome advice. Thanks. So I think you've answered a lot of the questions that I've heard. Do you have any final thoughts or tips for our audience? Things that they can do to just help marketing efforts or anything along those lines?
It's every business is different. I think what I see on a regular basis, because I'm always brand or client facing as an agency, and like I mentioned before, we're pretty much helping with the entire demand portion of their business. So the paid search, paid social, the email and the SMS, the content and creative. We have our own production team that helps with video production, right? So they're all things that brands need. But what I find most often is that business owners and operators need to understand the infrastructure of their business as it relates to marketing. Sometimes like the Facebook ads and Google ads are this shiny new object that's going to help them grow, which is 100% true. But sometimes there's the expectations don't align with what it can do in the first 3 to 6 months versus 1 to 2 years. And a lot of brands don't understand their margin as it relates to the marketing. They don't understand their average order value, and really like what I call the digital heartbeat of the brand. Those are really like your logistical metrics and your marketing metrics, and how they kind of come together to help you make decisions. People don't realize, and agencies don't get exposed to this too much, is that businesses have cash flow issues. They have inventory issues. Right now, there's a widespread challenge with supply chain and getting inventory, and we're going into Q4, right? So if most brands, if they haven't ordered their next set of inventory for Q4, they're probably too late, and they're going to not be as prepared as they wanted to be, for the holiday push, which is expected to be very, very competitive. So I think it's just really honing down on the fundamentals of business as it relates to marketing, because it's only going to make your marketing that much more powerful. So I tried to educate before we decide to, work with some of these brands. This way, they're as prepared as we are to help them go to where they want to go. But yeah, I mean, it's every day is a challenge.
Awesome information here. And I think anybody that listens to this podcast is going to get a lot of value out of it. And one thing I'd like to pass along too is I'm seeing a lot of growth in local manufacturing now. For the very thing you mentioned, it's a lot harder to get stuff now from overseas because of COVID and everything else. Whereas it's easier to just make stuff here, clothes and certain other products, 3D printing, stuff like that. So I'm seeing a lot of fulfillment locally now. People are selling on Amazon, and they're looking now, how do I market directly to the customer as opposed to paying 33% to Amazon, for example.
It's tricky sometimes, it's a double-edged sword because of course you'd want to encourage local manufacturing, but the cost just doesn't align with what the cost of marketing today is, right? So apparel is a tricky business. We're in the apparel business ourselves. That's one of our flagship brands is called SA Company or safishing.com. And apparel is tough. I mean, it's the margins aren't always as high. You're really relying on repeat purchases and retention to be super high, loyalty to be super high in order to scale. But yeah, I mean, domestic manufacturing would be amazing if we could do it at scale. It's just it hasn't caught up with where it is, and you can be, you're talking about 20% sometimes plus in your gross margins that you really need to be able to successfully advertise the business. So yeah, I mean, it depends on the industry and the category. Most people can get away with that, but there's more people that struggle with that than most, for sure.
Yeah, the one I was thinking about, they've actually been successful. They're a luxury brand. I mean, $500 shoes and, $600 dresses. So within that kind of an industry, it's a little bit easier. And rather than getting some unknown quality from China, if you can directly make the product, it's a lot easier. And so, yeah, those are the ones that are being successful. So that's what I'm thinking. There's a lot of success to be had. And it sounds like with the tips that you mentioned here, companies can be more successful. So thank you very much for coming on our show, John. And perhaps, I don't know, after 6 months or a year, it'd be great to check in and see how things are going, right?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. This is great.